Welcome to Pep Talks with Jeanne. I'm your host, Jeanne Pepper. I started doing Pep Talks as a way to inspire you to do intentional acts of kindness and to further the goals of Blaze It Forward. Since Pep Talks began, it has evolved, and now I use it to interview people actively making a difference in this world through their volunteerism, community service, or careers. My guests are all here because they have dedicated their lives to making this world a better place. Join us as we delve into the hopes, dreams, and aspirations of these truly inspiring and hardworking people. This season, we will be focusing on the quiet superheroes, the thoughtful, kind, and forward-thinking community-minded individuals that teach us about resiliency, abundance, and how we can turn trauma, tragedy, and life challenges into meaningful, intentional action to repair our world. Welcome to another episode of Pep Talks with Jeanne. We have in our studio today Melissa Reiner. Great having you here.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Let's talk about you. Melissa Reiner is a prominent autism and behavioral consultant, widely regarded as one of the top experts in California with a master's degree in special ed, certification as a relationship development intervention consultant. She has dedicated her career to helping individuals on the autism spectrum and their families. She is the founder of Melissa Reiner Speaks and the author of several books. Wow. Notably, she has served as the autism consultant for the ABC television show The Good Doctor. Very cool. Where she worked with actor Freddie Highmore to ensure an authentic portrayal of a character with autism. Her work focuses on developing effective communication, building resilience, and fostering successful client relationships. Well, we need all of that here. You're also working on a new book?
Yeah, it's called Conversation Over Confrontation. And it's primarily about educators or parents with children, but it's also for adults and individuals and, coworkers and partners in marriage and, relationships with anyone in your world and in your purview.
Like, what's the most important thing that you would say changes something from a conversation or from a confrontation to a conversation? Like, how do you make it happen?
Well, I'll dive right in. The work I do centers around a shift in communication style. So most people talk to other people, most adults certainly talk to children, almost exclusively using commands and questions. We say, come here, put that down, wear your shoes, did you brush your teeth? And everything is sort of either peppering people with questions or making a demand through a command. And we have discovered that creates a little bit of a spike in heart rate and blood pressure in the recipient of that communication. So we are unwittingly creating these miniature or massive anxiety responses in our children. Anxiety, as far as I can see, is the most prevalent issue today. It's affecting everyone, whether there's a diagnosis of autism, ADHD, anything in between. It doesn't mean you have a formal diagnosis of an anxiety disorder, but everyone is, as far as I can see, and I've been doing this over 20 years, I've never met someone who does not have some experience with anxiety. Yeah. So when we shift that communication style and we avoid or greatly diminish our access to commands and questions, and we speak more declaratively using what I call I statements, we see that there is not that same anxiety response. So we are basically eliminating that confrontation opportunity just by shifting our communication style. So instead of put that down, I might say, I see you're holding those scissors and I'm really hoping that they can go back in the drawer, which is different than what are you doing? What's your problem? Put that down. And by the way, I have to start by saying, I am a totally imperfect parent. I mess up every day and I strive every day to do better. So I too lose my marbles and say, what are you doing? What is going on? How could you? But when I'm my best self and when everything works in a more effective, towards a more effective outcome, it's because I'm shifting my communication style. So creating that conversation so we can talk about something instead of inciting anxiety and creating an explosive or a shutdown response.
Yeah. One thing that I learned in the years of therapy that I have put myself through is, when we have these confrontational type of conversations with people, to use I statements instead of you statements.
And it's that, and it's a little bit, it's sort of one step further. So sometimes it's active listening, which is, I hear you saying this. But the other missing piece is then what? So I've said, I hear you, when my son talks to me, I have an 18-year-old, a 16-year-old, 14-year-old in there. There's a lot of hormones and attitude. And when that hits full throttle, it is something I'm not interested in. I'm not interested in being spoken to in a demeaning or affronting, in a way like that is disrespectful. So I can say, well, I hear how you're speaking to me, or I hear you saying this, or I hear your tone. But then what? So most people say, then what do you do next, right? So I would say, I haven't heard you ask politely, which is the button on that, because if it's just active listening, there's no real resolution. And my work is really focused on being solution oriented. So it's not just the first step, which is active listening or reflecting back what you hear, using these I statements. I always say, just state what you see, but then, for example, when a child is in an escalated moment, they're angry, their lid is flipped, they're upset, I might say, I hear you screaming, but then what, right? So that's nice. And then they're still screaming and losing their marbles. So if I can help my child by saying, so I hear you screaming, but I haven't heard you say, I'm mad. Because we might hear instead swearing, we might hear cruel things, said. But if we can say the truth behind the pain, the anger, the frustration, which is I'm mad. It's an easy grab. It could be, I've said, it looks like you're mad. I just haven't heard you say I'm mad. And she said, I feel humiliated. And I had seen what transpired between her and her sister, and I would never have anticipated that that's what she was feeling. But just by saying, I haven't heard you say I'm mad, she told me what she was actually experiencing. And then she's out of her amygdala, which is that flipped lid moment. She's not in fight or flight as soon as she says, I'm mad. So she's bringing that forward into her frontal lobe. And then, and only then, is she able to even understand why she's mad. So the first layer is recognizing the feeling that's fueling the poor behavior, poor choices. Then we understand why we're feeling that. And then we come up with a solution.
It's almost like you're talking to a different person in there.
Because it's not like I said, when I'm my best self, I'm not screaming, I'm not losing my mind. We all are tired, exhausted, maybe under the weather, whatever's happening, we all have to give each other grace. We have to give ourselves grace.
Yeah.
I don't have to be an Instagram mom. I don't have to be perfect. I don't have to pretend that I have it all figured out, because I'm figuring it out every day on the fly. And I think we all are. Like I said, I get it wrong and just strive to do better. And I think that's honest. And I just can't pretend to be, and I don't want, I'm too old. I don't have the time or energy to pretend to be perfect. I would hate that. My kids would hate it. It's not real. And teaching our kids that when there is a miscommunication, when there is a communication breakdown, we can repair it. It doesn't have to be perfect.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because it's setting everyone up for failure otherwise, really.
Right. And, kids today too, they need as much interaction, like real interaction with humans as possible. And the parental relationship might be one of the only people they actually talk to face personally in a given day.
Maybe, right? Because most kids are on their devices. They're
exactly.
buried in their electronic world. And I mean, that's a lofty goal to think that they're talking to their parents, because often some parents would say they're the last people being spoken to by their children, frankly.
Yeah.
And it's hard. And it's hard on top of that if there are other challenges, other diagnoses. So then it's just difficult, And
we're going to get to those diagnoses. You hold yourself out as an expert on autism. Obviously, you've had years of experience, and we're going to get down to what it is and what you've learned. Tell us about your journey and what inspired you to specialize in autism.
Yeah, it's been a journey. I started off knowing absolutely nothing about autism. That's how I started out. Yeah. I was working in this amazing, doesn't exist anymore, but this amazing summer program for kids who had different levels of diagnoses. It could be cerebral palsy. It could be autism. It could be just kids who needed a break from 20 hours of therapy a week. And, while it was a therapeutic environment, it wasn't about that. It was about creating friendships and having fun for kids who didn't really have really any other opportunity during the school year, certainly to do that. So in the summer, it was called the Special Needs Resource Center, and they created this summer program, which was amazing. And I sort of fell into that, and was because I was working with kids and I was teaching, but I didn't really know anything about anything. And a close friend of mine was working for them, and she was going to start as the summer was ending in the school year with this child at a school, and this was in LA. And I was sort of on the sidelines. They were like, well, we'll see. I don't know if we're really going to bring you into the fold. And then everything's fine. But her mom ended up having a brain tumor, and she was like, I'm going up to Northern California. I'm going to be with my mom, and her mom's fine, and it was benign and everything's good. But at the time she did not know. So and this was it might have been 1 or 2 days before school was starting. So they said, we're pulling you in, and we will basically disown you if you mess up. And I was like, they were like, we'll pretend we don't know you, because it was a chance they took. And the woman who ran the therapeutic part of this program, moving into the school system out of the summer program, as like a therapeutic one-on-one companion in the classroom setting, she came to visit, and she saw me with this child, and she said, you're a natural. You how do you know how to do this? I said, I don't know. I don't know anything. I'm just winging it. I'm feeling it. And she said, well, your instincts are great. Let's hone them. And then I also fell into this, my initial training was in relationship development intervention, and I was certified through them, and over the years have transformed and sort of I've allowed it to evolve into something that is now my own system of my own methodology.
So how do you determine that someone is autistic?
I don't diagnose.
Okay.
So I don't. And also my whole premise is I don't treat a diagnosis. I work with a child and their family. Yeah. And so it doesn't really matter. It does for families because they need services covered, and it helps, I think, honestly, for a child to know if there is a diagnosis, what their diagnosis is. I think that's a really important piece. And a lot of families will have me come in when they have learned of a diagnosis and are afraid to tell their child or don't want to tell their child. And I will say, I'll state for the record, unilaterally, without any exception, telling your child the truth is always better.
Yeah.
Withholding a diagnosis when they do find out and know that you've known for a year, a month, 9 years is devastating and a betrayal. And I think that the more, like I said, it doesn't mean that the child isn't upset to find out anything, just like any news we get. But it means that that's part of their journey, that they have to be given the breadth and width to explore and to experience. And then ultimately, and I mean all across the board without exception, it is a gift that this child knows what's going on with them, and that, oh, it's not me, it's this. I have this. These are the set of issues that come. That's why it's hard for me to relate to others, or this is why sometimes I get stuck. And it's like a weight lifted. It's not a burden that we're giving them. It's a weight that's being lifted once a child knows what diagnosis they have. It's crucial, to be honest.
And there's there's a spectrum too in autism.
Sure.
I mean, I've seen it. I've seen some people that claim their kids have autism that seem that are less autistic than I am. Okay. I don't know what that says about me. And, and then you'll see people that claim their kids are autistic that are spellers and, and don't communicate. So how do they know what it is if they're not speaking?
There's a broad spectrum. There's I think when people ask, why, and there's a lot of misinformation that's being bandied about of late, but I think when people look at the history where, 50 years ago, you would have to be such a severe case to warrant a diagnosis of autism. Now they're like, well, it's exploded, and there's so many more people being diagnosed. And what's that about? It's about a broadening of a diagnosis. So the diagnosis is not just this narrow sort of focus anymore. It's about this broad spectrum of understanding that there are different elements, like you said, that we all probably have some experience with, and allowing that sort of expansion of understanding of what that might mean for each individual. And that's the bottom line. Everyone's an individual. So I've worked with, kids who have no trouble maintaining eye contact. And so they don't look or appear as though they might have autism. And yet there are a series of other issues that are pretty profound and need to be addressed because they have autism. So it can't just be because the other day a little kid was walking on their toes and my friend said, "Do you think she has autism?" And I said, "Hey, let's press the pause button for a minute."
I don't think that's
we can't just diagnose because a kid's walking on their toes. Sometimes kids, it's like there's no broad stroke.
So what percentage, let's look at California. What percentage of people in California have a diagnosis right now?
I think they're saying 1 in 22, which is
more than 20%.
Yeah, it's pretty.
No, that's not right. 1 in 22, 5%. It's a little more than 5%.
I'm not good at math. I'm going to trust you.
A little
with
more
that.
than 5%.
There you go.
1 in 20
I think they were saying
would
like
be
4% is what they were looking at, but they said 1 in 22.
Yeah, 1 in 22 is a little over 5%, which is more than schizophrenic, which is really good because schizophrenia used to be 3%. So which would make sense why I know more autistic people than schizophrenic people.
Sure.
Yeah. You've got to love statistics. Wow. That is a lot, though.
Yeah. I mean, I think, like I said, it's the more we loosen the criterion, the more you're going to see a diagnosis, which doesn't mean that, again, I feel like each unique individual has their unique experience with it, and each family experiences it differently. So, it's just not one fell swoop of this is what that means.
All that Tylenol, right?
Oh my gosh, please don't get me started. It was upsetting.
I actually, I'm glad that they finally figured it out that it's Tylenol because now,
and that it's the mom's fault.
That's
good.
I'm glad that we've determined that's clearly what has caused so much autism in this country is Tylenol.
Yeah. And because if you have a high fever when you're pregnant, you definitely don't want to treat it.
Yeah, you wouldn't want to treat an infection,
and you shouldn't.
Or maybe like a young child is, suffering, and
how
you
is
wouldn't.
Tylenol not like losing?
I don't
marbles over.
understand. Well, I think it's good that we know now.
Now we know.
Now that we know.
And now I'm out of a job, which is great.
Now that
I'm
we
happy
know
to be.
That's what it is,
Happy to be. I always said I'm happy to be out of a job. I didn't know it would come this soon.
We haven't been able to figure out why evolution seems to not be working. But maybe it will start working again when all the people that follow this advice stop using Tylenol.
And then we'll see.
Then we'll see the truth. But I don't know. I have a theory, and I'm not a scientist or an expert on autism, but I tend to believe that it could be an evolutionary advantage. Is that possible?
Well, I mean, I think that's the whole idea, right? Is somebody who feels like, you know what, I don't need to be cured. Why? The cure?
Is there something wrong with being autistic?
I'm great.
I mean, they're smarter, they're nicer, they're more peaceful in general.
Everyone is unique, but I think that and there are challenges with every human, with raising any child. But I think that when I work with a family, I say, I want your child to be exactly who they are, and I want us to see if we can help work through any challenges that you're facing, because just like you would with anybody, and I think that that's the deal. It's just like you would treat anybody. It's, any disability, and it's if you're talking down to someone because they're in a wheelchair, if you're talking in a demeaning way to someone who is hard of hearing, I mean, then that's a you problem, not a them problem. And so I think that the more we can, aside from all the nonsense, but the more we can recognize that each unique individual has their own journey and their own strengths and their own deficits and their own hurdles to just like everyone.
Would an average autistic person need to read a book about conversation over confrontation?
I think so. I mean, I do. I think it's for everybody. I think it's because what I think is unique about my work is I don't just work with a child and then hand a child back to the parents and say good luck, because that sets a family up for failure. But I think that I have found working with the whole family unit is crucial, so that both parents, we're all on the same page, we're all speaking the same language.
It's helpful.
And siblings who are often, I've worked with a little boy, this was early on in my career, and there were a lot of fires that we needed to put out, okay? And he was the focus. And this little girl who had straight A's and was super just easy, they didn't have to worry about her. Well, after several years, and he had started to really make some strides and he was thriving, frankly. She walked into the kitchen one morning and said, I don't see the point of living. Because she had bottled everything up for all of those years to be the good sibling, to be the sibling that wasn't causing the problem. And you need me to just step back so you can deal with it, put out this fire. And then she couldn't take it anymore. And I said, so we are switching gears. And then here I am working with a child who's neurotypical, right? And this is our focus because she is screaming, I need help. Someone help me. And we did. And thank God they're both great now and out of college.
But that's really typical too. And we're going to have a family member of someone who's in this exact situation. I'm curious to see what he would say about that. But when you have a kid in the family that is sucking oxygen out of the family because of their issues, the other siblings feel like they're not getting as much. And I can give you a perfect example in my own family. My mother, so as you said, 50 years ago, we didn't diagnose people with autism. Well, my family is a very typical family that was dealing with it. My grandmother had a late in life pregnancy.
Oh, wow.
My uncle, which was her third child, 11 years younger than my mom, who was her oldest child. And he was never right. And when I say right, he didn't fit the mold of what
he struggled.
And because they didn't diagnose people with autism, they just thought people like my uncle were just a little bit weird. I think
people would say, "Oh, he's
strange.
Quirky," or
they're quirky. They're weird. They don't make eye contact. They, when they talk, they talk really fast or really slow, or like they're just totally oblivious to how other people see them. And that would be. But my grandmother never accepted any of that. She would be angry with people that said anything negative about my uncle. And he may not have been the sharpest tool in the shed. And he's still alive, by the way. But he did go to college. He finished college, and he had a long career working in journalism. I don't know what that says about journalists, but he did that for many years. His articles were very simple, very rote. Like very rote, almost like AI. Like he wrote articles like an AI would write an article. Completely devoid of any humanity in the articles. But he did have a job for many years. He's retired now. So he did do all of that. He probably listens to this podcast too, because I know he's a big fan.
That's sweet.
But I think that I always wondered, would things have been different for him if someone had said, yes, he is weird. He's autistic. He's different. Would things have been different? Would he have not gone to college? Would he have been put in an institution? What are we doing with all of this, pointing fingers at people? And
we have to be careful using like the term weird, right? Because it's not really, I think it doesn't really actually sum up, who a person is, right?
Hey, I like being weird.
I was going to say I'm weird.
So I don't see it as a pretty weird person. It's not a bad, in my view.
My kids are embarrassed about me every day.
Okay, so let's put that out there.
But
weird is good.
Yeah, and I'm, I sing in public and dance through a grocery store, and they're like, Mom, and so but I think that it is really important that we have been making these important strides of awareness.
Yeah.
I think that is everything. If we can, in a workplace environment, working with corporate America, it's very challenging. I work with individuals who are adults who have autism, who are brilliant and talented and have different degrees or certifications, and struggle with the social emotional component of work. And so when they're in that environment, if people aren't made aware, if people aren't educated, if their boss, their coworkers don't know what to do or how to have the conversation instead of the confrontation, then it ends up often where that person's fired because they don't fit in. They're not right. Because it's not about just qualifications. If everyone went to Harvard and It's about how you connect with the person who's hiring you. Do they feel like you'd be a good fit with the team?
Yeah.
It's all about the social emotional realm, which is often a real challenge for a lot of people I work with. And so finding that ability to have access to that kind of awareness and education to inspire people to recognize that there are alternatives to then just throwing up your hands and going, well, I guess we can't work with this person. And to know that there are so many opportunities that can help you to have everyone feel successful.
Yeah. So
crucial.
if autism was an evolutionary advantage, what would be the specific traits that you could identify that would be things that might help you?
I mean, again, I think that there are so many unique individuals who have their own unique series of traits that are positive. And I think that for me, it's the piece of what I worked with a kid who was in high school. This was at Venice High School many years ago.
I went to prom there,
did
1988,
you?
Venice
Look
High
at
School.
you.
Yeah, look at me. Woo,
And
right
he,
here.
this is to me a classic example. He was suspended because he had memorized everyone's locker combinations on his floor.
Classic autistic savant.
Well, and I'm like, so you just suspended him and he wasn't cruel. He wasn't, vandalizing though. He wasn't stealing.
Yeah, great
he
example.
Just knew them and could open them.
Yeah,
and I was
that's a
like,
great advantage.
Call the NSA because they will hire him tomorrow. And I mean, and not every child is a savant, right? But he had this ability, and some people. I work with a family who they love to travel. They have the ability, thankfully, to travel to a lot of places, and their son can look at a map, and he is their guide. He will land in a city, look at the subway system or the bus system, and never have to look at it again and say wherever they are in the city. They were in London, and he was like, well, we'll just take this bus, and then we'll have to transfer and go under this terminal, and then we're going to take that train to the and. They just never worry or fret. They don't have to use GPS or anything.
Are you sure he's autistic? Because Blaze had that ability also.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I mean, that's
at
what I'm
10
saying.
years old, Blaze
It's
looked
amazing.
at the subway map in New York, and he was our guide.
He knew where to go.
He knew every which way to go.
So, and that's what I'm saying is it doesn't have to be an autism
Yeah.
trait. It doesn't have to be a savant, sort of situation. It can really be that. So when we ask about superpowers, what is everyone's superpower?
Right.
What makes you unique? What makes you powerful? And it is sometimes, however, misconstrued, or like that school that suspended him, it looked like he was being obtrusive. It looked like he was doing something illegal. It looked like he was behaving in an inappropriate way, but really he wasn't. And all it would have taken was, I love that you know all of the locker combinations, but we are only going to open our own locker. And unless we need you for some reason, we'll call on you. If we need help opening someone's locker, they forgot their combination, you can step in.
Wow.
Right? It could have been an asset instead of, a detrimental.
So there are and there are a lot of different interesting savants out there that can do incredible things.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously we don't really understand intelligence that well. I just had Dr. McGaw here from UCI. I don't know if you know who that is, but he's the foremost authority and the first researcher on the issue of memory and the brain.
Amazing.
Yeah, he just explained all of that to me.
I love it.
How all of this research began, and he opened up the first neurology and behavior science department in UCI, in the
amazing.
World, right here at UCI.
Does he focus on Alzheimer's or dementia?
No, he did not. He's almost 94 years old now.
Wow.
So at the time, they were just figuring out how memory works. They didn't even understand how the chemistry worked for memory, but now they do because of him. So yeah, I mean, this is all, I understand that this is all we just really don't know very much. We don't know a whole lot of how this works.
No,
why
there's so much,
it's this way.
Well, there's so much, like I said, if everyone who is their own person has their own set of skills, assets, and challenges. Like one of my kids has severe mixed dyslexia, but man, you give him any spatial relationship issue and he will solve it. Like if we're trying to pack up the trunk to go camping or something, he will right size everything. I mean, he just sees it.
Why aren't we making more of an effort to point out these people as superheroes? I mean, I don't see enough of this on Instagram. I want to see all the people that can look at a map one time and draw it by hand. And
also, I have
know
long.
about this.
I mean, I think dyslexia is a huge issue because it's seldom really diagnosed properly.
It's hard to understand how it works.
I think they say like there's a huge percentage of homeless teens who have dyslexia because they have this amazing mind that they can't produce the result on page. And so why don't we have, my husband has dyslexia and he's a plumbing contractor. He's a kinesthetic learner. He's a hands-on person. So he's one of the best plumbers like ever.
Is he also an artist?
He's a photographer, but I don't think he's like an artist, like drawing.
But he does have
he has an eye for things.
Okay,
I mean, he can just see things.
I've noticed that about these kinesthetic people, like people that work in plumbing or even boom operators. Like
anything,
anything with a lot of hands. That they tend to be very creative people.
Yeah,
but
it's
kind of like the gig that makes them money is the thing that you always see them doing. But
why don't we have high schools? Why don't we have a secondary track?
Yeah.
Of leave high school knowing how to do HVAC, welding.
Oh, we've had this discussion here as well.
It's insane to me.
Yeah, we don't have vocational schools.
So we're robbing a huge percentage of our population of a meaningful and fruitful career right out of high school.
Yeah, tell LA Unified about that when they got rid of all their vocational schools because it was considered racist that they only had them in urban neighborhoods. Yeah.
So they got rid of them.
So they got rid of them because it's not fair that we don't have them at Santa Monica High School or Pacific Palisades High School. That's not fair.
Which is crazy because we should, by the way.
They should be there also. But the problem was the kids didn't want them there. They wouldn't take them.
Isn't that bonkers?
Yeah, it's crazy.
Cut off your nose to spite your
those
face.
kids are more likely and had parents that could afford to send them to college. Or find a college that would take them. But these kids
talk
in
about
urban,
superpowers,
right?
It's like
but there's a lot of people that who could be tremendous woodworkers, could be tremendous, at a lot of different artistic,
amazing,
creative, useful skills that we'll never know because they weren't offered it in high school.
Well, and then they feel like and then how do if they weren't given the opportunity in high school, how do they? Sometimes for anyone in any city, how do they afford to then pursue that after anyway?
Yeah, I know. You're preaching to the choir. So a lot of attention lately has been given to nonverbal autistic people and otherwise just nonverbal people that, like in this podcast, I'm going to reference called the Telepathy Tapes, which I've listened to. And I was completely blown away and fascinated by the idea that autistic, non-communicative verbally, but known as spellers, could potentially be communicating telepathically with each other. And do you think that's possible? What do you know?
So, I mean, and we were sort of talking also about, are there, when people have passed in my life, they've come to me in dreams. And the first thing I always say is, you look so good for being dead. That's literally what I say in my dream every time I see someone who's passed, which is a weird thing to say, but they all look good. And so I get visited. So
that's why they visit you, because you have nice things to say.
You look so good for being dead. But I don't know what that means for me. I don't think I have a gift. I think that just sometimes happens when people who have been close to me have passed. And so is it possible? Yes. My sister growing up had dreams that would come true the next day that were these crazy dreams. We grew up in Chicago. She once had a dream that there was a huge earthquake. We'd never had an earthquake in my whole experience of my life there. And the next morning, it was so funny because knowing that she wasn't playing music, this is back when you had speakers that were, Florida ceiling basic. And my mom had this glass display sort of shelving thing in the foyer that had crystal on it. And it started rattling. And I said to my sister, turn down the music. She's like, there's no music. I'm not playing music. And we had an earthquake. It was super low grade, but we had never, in several hundred years, I don't think we'd had an earthquake in Chicago. And it was so yes, is it possible? Of course. I have not personally had experience with someone who I know who has, but I can't discount anything.
Yeah, you wouldn't, because you've experienced other forms of
and
consciousness.
Also, why? I also feel like, why would we need to discount it? Like, who cares if two people are connecting in a way that is meaningful to them, and if you want to debunk it, why? Like, I don't get why someone needs to say that's not true. You and your child are not telepathically.
Well, I think that, if someone's a charlatan and they're using it for, economic advantage to claim
I don't think
that,
these people are.
Yeah,
having conversations with their children.
I don't, but the telepathy tapes is probably one of the most highly rated podcasts. So if that's true, then just the discussion about it is generating a monetary benefit to the producer of that.
I guess so, but not
right?
to these individuals who are living it in different parts of the world. And
Right.
I mean, I don't know. It seems
there
like
are a lot of them too. I mean, from what I gathered from listening to that, just the ones that she was able to find, they were communicating with each other even.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't feel like I don't feel like it's a harmful thing. I think it's a beautiful thing. And I know that, we communicate and understand infants, right, who are nonverbal.
Right.
We have total communication and we understand, things about our babies that maybe other people don't, or other people may also, it's like someone who cares about somebody and is connected to somebody might be able to ascertain a feeling or a situation in a way that maybe,
or even animals.
Oh, of course.
Right?
When people are like, oh, of course you're not talking to your pets by having a reciprocal conversation, but you absolutely are.
Yeah, we know when they're not well.
So, isn't that a form of that?
It's a form of nonverbal communication because, we there's certain signs that we give off that we communicate with. There's certain our behavior is a form of communication too.
I had a friend who had a stroke, and when he was in the hospital, they asked him to count back from 10. And he counted in Spanish. And he had never learned Spanish. And he counted backwards. So it's not even like I know uno, dos, tres, and I don't know Spanish, but I know like that much. I could probably get to 10. But counting backwards would be probably harder for me. And he did it like, it was facile. It was like so easy for him. And he'd never learned Spanish. So a part of his brain that maybe heard it or integrated
This was one of your students?
This was an adult that I knew. And it was wild. So there are so many aspects of the power of the brain that we know nothing of. It couldn't be explained. You hear people who have I knew someone a story I heard on the radio, but someone who had like I didn't know them personally, but they had a spinal injury and then could play the piano like
I saw that.
You know what I mean? Like, so it's
they were really weird.
I don't know.
Really
how do
weird
we
things that happened? Yeah, I saw that he'd hit his head in the swimming pool.
Yes, and then played the piano.
And had brain damage from that. But when he woke up from the coma, he was able to play piano. He'd never played
like a concert pianist. But,
Yeah, like real weird things. Or people have been electrocuted and they have these strange abilities afterwards. So why is that?
Why would we discount anything?
I know.
Wouldn't.
It is interesting. The brain is interesting, and autism is part of the brain, right?
100%.
100%. It's
you're connecting with your child.
Yeah. There was a family that I know that actually encouraged me to use a program called Mendability. This is many years ago. I don't know if you've heard of it.
I have, but I'm not.
Okay,
not
so
familiar.
what the idea behind it was that it's a sensory integration issue. And that a lot of this can be helped if we try to integrate the senses when these kids are young.
Yeah.
So one of the things that they would have me do with my child that was displaying symptoms of being very difficult, which looked like he, could be on the spectrum.
Sure.
I tried this stuff with him. It was very difficult because I didn't start when he was young enough, but like I'd have him smell a lemon, look at a lemon, and then put his hand in a bucket of water with a lemon and then rub a lemon on his head. And like just like weird stuff like that. And then another thing was like a bunch of pennies. Like I'd have to, have him look at the penny, smell the penny. Like all this interesting different associations with that I guess helped integrate. But this is, they show that this type of sensory integration could improve the ability of this child to be able to function better.
I think so. I think when there are different things that we can do, and I love what you're talking about doing.
Yeah,
and
it's called Mendability.
I do stuff like that without knowing about that.
Yeah.
I've done so. So I was working with a child who, for some reason, soap that was foam.
Yeah.
when it would come out as foam it was as if someone was like torturing her, right? And she would scream. And it wasn't a show. It wasn't to try to be dramatic. She looked like she was being traumatized, right? By touching foam soap. So they called me in. I had just newly met this family and said for 3 or 5 months, we've been with OT, and I love OT, but this wasn't helping her in this specific situation. And for some reason, I just somehow knew what to say. And I said, when you shower, because she had no problem touching bar soap or using shampoo. Yeah. And I said, so you pour the sort of gel-like shampoo, the liquid shampoo, into your hand, and then you rub it together or you rub it into your hair and it gets foamy. You're doing this, you're the mechanism that is in, and I showed her the mechanism, and that pump, it's creating that foam. It's also liquid, and then it becomes just like you're making. And she was like, oh, and like whatever was making her feel afraid or terrified about it, it was explained in a way that she felt like she could.
So she just went forward without a problem anymore?
There was still, we did a slight, first we had her just touch the foam container.
Slowly move towards it.
Just look at it. We're going to have it in the room with you. And then we just touched it.
Yeah.
And then we were able to touch the spout, and then we were able to actually put it in our hand, and then she was able to use. And the hand sanitizer was also a similar thing, not because it was foam, but the hand sanitizer.
There was something about the mechanism.
And so we worked through it. And if you're not, it can be dangerous if people throw someone in a vat of spiders. If you're afraid of spiders, it's like, maybe don't do that. That's torture. But people will do it in this sort of shocking way. It depends on the practitioner.
Yeah, like they used to talk about that when I took psychology class, about how they, slowly introduce things.
Of course.
Very, very slowly until you could finally, hey, I have a phobia very similar to this young lady of the foam rubber that they put inside of upholstery.
Oh, interesting.
I cannot touch that stuff. I don't like looking at it. The sound of it when people touch it and I hear it, it's like scratching a chalkboard.
Nails.
Like even thinking about it right now, like, ugh, like I just hate this stuff. But I have to say, there was a point in my life when I didn't hate it, and I remember because I had a piece of this that my parents had given me that was round and it was about it was maybe 3 inches thick, and it was probably a diameter of 12 inches. And I used to play with it as a kid. It was like, for me, it was like a toy. I called it Wheelie. And I would
remember
wheel
what?
It. Well, there was a point in time when a little piece of it came out. And that piece, when it came out, like it just disturbed me so much. Like that, I think, was the beginning of me not liking this stuff. And I don't know why, for the life of me, why that mattered to me, but I still hate this stuff. So who knows?
And sometimes some things, I hate tags. The tags that are enclosed.
A lot of people do.
And so I will cut them out very meticulously.
That's a sensory thing too.
And so it's like different people, different things. And is it the end of the world, right? Yeah. Is it okay if we have a compensation?
We could, introduce tags to you very slowly. We could put a small tag, and then we could put a bigger tag.
I'll still cut it out. I'm still going to cut it out.
Just like maybe if it's like a really small tag, you won't notice it.
Definitely going to cut it out.
Okay. There's so many different interesting parts of being autistic besides like the sensory issues maybe the extraordinary abilities that could come along with it, the nonverbal things that could come along with it. But what percentage of people that are autistic are nonverbal? Aren't most autistic? At least the ones I'm around. So,
there's a huge...
There's such a big spectrum.
Yeah, and so, I think that there are different ways that we can also look at it, because there are sometimes people who are not apraxic, who can speak but choose not to because they will maybe only talk about something that they're initiating a conversation about, or that they are prefer. It's a preferred point of interest, and so it's not necessarily that they are nonverbal, but like I had a family who said, I just want my child to talk. And I said, you don't just want your child to talk. You want to be able to relate to and connect in with your child. You don't want them just to talk at you or around you or about you. You want your child to be in a connected, meaningful interaction with you. Yeah. That's what you want.
Because you want to have dialogue with them. You don't want it. Just because you can talk doesn't.
Right. And so just because someone's nonverbal or is not interested in speaking in that moment in time doesn't mean they can't communicate and be connected, right? And also if somebody is talking for 10 hours about World War II ships until people's eyes are glazed over and they're drooling or falling asleep in front of them, that too is like that. So they're talking and they're verbal, but are they connecting?
Yeah.
And what we really want, I think why we're on this planet is to connect. I think we want to connect in with people around us.
I would agree with you. We'll get back to that. Like even Helen Keller, okay, blind and deaf, and they didn't know what was wrong with her. They didn't understand that that's why she wasn't communicating. They put her in a psychiatric hospital, right?
That's what people do. I mean, when people don't understand anything, they often don't want any part of it. And so the more we, like that awareness piece, the more we learn, the more we're educated, the more we feel we have an understanding of anything that we don't understand previously, it creates a connection because now I understand more about this conflict, interpersonal, it is, people always used to say there's your side, there's their side, and somewhere in between is the truth, right? Because when you start to understand more and more, often when I'm at, let's say at a school and a child maybe is not functioning well during recess, for example, which is common. It may look like this child is being obstinate or this child is being difficult or this child is causing a problem, but really they're just struggling. And if we can say, it looks like you're having a hard time, this one child would try to steal the ball that the kids were playing with. And I said, I see you taking the ball every day. And I'm not, and I felt like I knew he just wanted to connect and didn't know how. Yeah. And he was doing it in a way that looked rough, right? It was not appreciated by anybody, teachers or students. And I said, if you want to play with them, I don't want to take their ball anymore. And I'm using these I statements. Yeah. I don't want to take their ball anymore. I wasn't taking it, but I don't want to take their ball anymore. I just want to come up to them and say, can I play? And then he was like, oh, there's another way of handling it than stealing their ball in the middle of their play and running away with it, right? So he looked like he was a difficult kid, and he was the sweetest kid who just didn't know what to do to make that connection. Yeah. And so helping bridge those gaps for teachers and students who are really eager or quick to judge or decide, he's just a difficult kid. It's like, it breaks my heart when I hear that because he really isn't. He's wonderful. Yeah.
You're known for being the autism expert for Hollywood. How do you feel about this title?
I love it. No, I don't. It was also something that I was grateful to have fallen into. It came to me. Yeah. So I had worked with a family. Both parents were producers many years ago, and one we sort of moved on, and we had graduated from the work we were doing, and everything was going really well.
You're a solution-based therapist.
That's the goal. Right? I would say it's a terrible business model, but get me out of your life as soon as possible is the goal. It is. It's
That's a good doctor or a good therapist, practitioner.
Thank you. And so many years later, I get a call from one of these parents who says, and at the time I didn't have a TV. I wasn't watching TV, but the only show I had ever watched was House. It was like a show that I loved and I loved that show. And so I knew David Shore was the producer of that show because at the end, Shoresy Productions. Okay. So I don't know anyone in Hollywood. I don't know, I'm not in that world. And then one of them called me and said, would you be interested in meeting David Shore? He's a producer and he's a showrunner, and he's working on this show, and they're making a pilot, and he really doesn't want this to be like a two-dimensional character. He really wants it fleshed out and authentic. Would you be able to help? And I said, let me think about it. Yes.
It just happened to be the only show you watched on TV was the one that Shore was the producer of and the showrunner for. Wow.
I mean, they could have said anybody, and it wouldn't have mattered.
That's kind of amazing, though.
It was amazing. It felt fortuitous.
There's a little synchronicity there.
Yeah, it was nice. But I said, sure, I'd love to. And so I drove my little minivan onto the Sony lot. And it was supposed to be, I think, like a 30-minute meeting. And I met with another producer, Aaron Gunn, who's amazing and so amazing. And I don't think that's common. I don't think meeting people of that caliber in that world are often as gracious and down to earth and kind as they are. But they are. So I felt very blessed. And That was an important piece of it. But the meeting was almost 3 hours. We were just talking. They loved my work. They loved what I did. And I said, I have to leave because I have to pick up my kids from school. And so they were like, okay. And then 7 or 8 months went by.
Yeah.
I didn't really expect anything. I didn't know. And David Shore said we were greenlit. So would you be able to help us? Because Freddie's in London and England. And do you know of anyone who could help him and work with him who does what you do? And I said, I do. Me.
Yeah.
And at the time, I was newly divorced.
Oh,
I
wow.
I'm not ashamed to say, but I was short-term on food stamps. I was sleeping on the floor of a 1-bedroom apartment with 3 kids. It was a rough time.
Yeah.
And
not unusual, too, for people that go through divorce, especially for women. Sometimes it's really hard.
It was hard, but I was
Yeah.
grateful to be where I was. And they said, well, no, we need someone in England. I said, well, if you need me there, I will be there tonight. I will get on a plane. I was going to beg, borrow, and steal, max out
It was
any.
happening.
I was like, I'll be there tomorrow. Whatever you need, tell me when, and I'll be there. I'm the one who's going to be there. I was not going to like pass the baton to someone else. Like, sure, let me refer you to me. And
Yeah,
so
right.
That little moment of tenacity, I think, paid off, and they sort of laughed about it. And I was like, so whatever you need, I'll fly myself there.
Yeah.
And work with Freddie, and who is the most he's the loveliest person. He is such, again, it was like a unicorn, that show.
Yeah.
It was,
Yeah.
every single person on the show was kind and warm. And I think everyone was invested in a greater purpose.
How many years ago was this?
So I think it's been almost 2 years since they're off the air, but it was 8 years. I was working with them for 8 years.
So this happened about 10 years ago that you got on that plane and
yeah,
went to
it was amazing.
UK?
And so they didn't end up, so they called me and they said, we worked out Freddie's schedule. He's actually going to be in Vancouver where they filmed, and we will fly you there. And so they put me up in a hotel. They're very nice. And it was lovely. It was so lovely. Mm-hmm. Every piece of it was
So you were
great.
in Canada for the filming of the show or the writing?
I was there for the pilot.
Okay.
And got to talk with some of the actors and the director at the time and of that show, of the pilot, and the producers, and it was great. And then I was also fortunate enough to work with a family who we were done with our work, and the dad was also an entertainment lawyer, and he was a kind, I think entertainment lawyers are not known for being so kind, and he happened to be a kind soul. And I said, I think this deal is going to come through. Can you help me? Because I don't know anything about a contract or I don't know anything. And he said, sure. And he was great. So he said, which I think ultimately was truly the best advice. He was seasoned. I was eager to just earn a lot of money and try to,
Yeah.
He said, you have 3 little kids. And if you move to Vancouver and you're going to be, 18 hours a day on a set, he said, after 2 weeks, you're just going to be missing your kids. And I was like, but that's a lot of money. And he said, I know, but you'll have your birthdays. They're, celebrating your kids' birthdays with them. You won't miss recitals. You won't miss, anything, a meet, a soccer match. You won't miss those things. And so I ended up working remotely. And it was a lot less money, but it was such a gift to me. And it was still more than it was a gift to me. Oh, wow. I was able to buy a car. It was able to help me.
Yeah, it helped you get your
on
life
my feet again.
Going again. Yeah.
It really did. And so it was a blessing because I was able to just get the script, give notes, and they would often rewrite entire sections of a script based on my input. So it felt very, it felt meaningful.
Wow. That's really interesting. And that was a real hardship too, that you endured, a real challenge
it was tough.
To get over that initial breakup from your husband and with 3 young children.
3 little ones. Yeah.
2 girls and a boy?
3 boys.
Oh, 3 boys.
That's why I'm all gray. There's 3 boys.
Yeah. I had 1 less boy than you. So that's why I still have all my hair. No.
Yeah.
Wow, that's a lot. That's a lot of not knowing, a lot of uncertainty.
I felt really good, even when it was financially insecure. Time. I felt so grateful, truly, and I felt felt good and I felt strong, even though it was tough. It was so tough, but it was really a powerful, Deepak Chopra calls it the field of pure potentiality. And that is what it was. It felt like the scary moment of not knowing, but then look at everything that unfolded that just fell into place. It was this amazing confluence of events that
you couldn't have predicted
or created.
It was like if the universe said it's your time now.
Yeah, here you go.
Wow, that's a great story.
Thank you.
For anybody that's like wondering whether or not they should push the button and shake up their whole life and possibly be sleeping on the floor in a 1-bedroom apartment, wondering how they were going to make ends meet with 3 young boy children. Wow, that's a lot, but you did it.
I felt really grateful. It was just a blessing. Yeah.
And your career has really taken off since then.
Thank you. And it's been very exciting. I was then fortunate enough, there was a person who I don't even remember meeting, I'm sorry to say, but who remembered meeting me, who was a grip at the filming of the pilot in Vancouver. And many years later, he said, I think he was working with Jason Reitman on the Ghostbusters Afterlife. And there was a character that they thought they were writing her as quirky, but they thought maybe it wasn't really discussed, but maybe she has autism, and would I come in to look at the script? And so I met with Jason Reitman, and it was amazing. And like, it's just things like that have unfolded. And
wow. So do you have an agent?
No.
Oh, you don't need one.
I mean,
maybe.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. There. That's so fascinating. So can you share what it was like in this collaboration process with the writers and producers of the show? Like, how does that work? What did they want to know about autism?
Well, I would go usually not during the pandemic, but I think usually I would come in to the writer's room at the Sony studios, and which I think it was again, the group of people were so outstanding. Everyone was so outstanding. It was, I was grateful. And I really also felt like I was coming from a place where I felt competent in my work. I felt confident in who I was and what I had to contribute and offer. So it didn't feel so daunting, but someone was like, "You were in the writer's room?" And I was like, yeah. And they were so wonderful, and everyone across the board. And there would sometimes be really fascinating series of questions from them that I would field, and I would offer information, and it was amazing. So it was just once a season, usually, not during the pandemic, like I said, but I would come in and speak, and then people, writers individually, when they were working on that show, they would call me, and so I was always available to them. And
yeah. Oh, that sounds really interesting.
It was really fun.
It was fun. So you loved your work.
Oh my gosh,
still love your work.
I love what I do, and I was grateful that this wasn't all my eggs were not in this one basket, because I think the entertainment business is fleeting. Yeah. But it was such a great 8 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's
and
wonderful.
that it was 8 years was also amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know what you think about this, but I'm going to ask you. When we first began the criminal justice process in the murder of our son, the defendant was claiming that tried to make a claim that they couldn't form intent because they were autistic.
Yeah,
is that complete nonsense?
Yeah, well, it's offensive actually.
It is offensive, isn't it, to autistic people?
Yeah, I think it's horribly offensive, and it also then is to excuse violent, despicable behavior,
right?
And sometimes a family not in that level of trauma, but sometimes a family will say, "Well, is this just because they're teenagers, or is this the autism?" And I'll say, it doesn't matter, right? We still have to address the fact that, like when my child speaks to me in a rude way, we still have to address it. It's not they don't get a pass because they're 15. Right? They don't get a pass because while we have an understanding, I know when my child is run down, and maybe under the weather, and I don't know it, but they're off. You see, something's off with you today, and then they have a fever the next day, God forbid. But you're like, oh, that's why, because you weren't quite yourself. It doesn't give anyone a pass. We still don't get to. When I'm hungry, I don't get to treat people like garbage because I haven't eaten and I'm hypoglycemic, right? So we still have to take ownership of our behavior and our choices. And yes, with autism, with ADHD, with all of these things, we still understand why these are challenges, or why this journey might be more challenging in this,
Right.
or that way. But yeah, I mean, was that to say that because he has autism, he murdered? No.
Yeah,
God,
I
God
was
forbid.
I was offended by that because I mean, I don't just have one uncle that's autistic in my family. I have many people in my family were not diagnosed because they didn't do that, but we kind of have an idea now that that's probably what it was. But I've never heard of autistic people being violent in general. I mean, that's not what they're known. Autistic people aren't known for violence.
Again, here's that spectrum, and I've worked with a lot of kids.
Have you seen violent autistic people?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
But it doesn't murderous.
Yeah.
But I have, and so, but it's also not just because of autism. It's because they also have a personality disorder. They also may have a bipolar disorder, or they may also have. So there, it's so to say it's because they have. Yes, I've seen a person with autism behave violently. Is it because they have autism? No.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, so,
Yeah, it's a hard one.
But it's also, you can't, so yes, do I work with individuals who have violent, explosive encounters? Sure. I work with kids who throw chairs and turn over tables. Are they murdering people? No.
Well, they could have multiple diagnoses too.
Sure.
I mean, you could be autistic and schizophrenic at the same time, right?
You
could be
I mean,
autistic and OCD. You could be autistic
all kinds
and,
of things. Have anxiety.
And psychotic. I mean, there could be a lot of
kinds of
different things
things.
going on in there.
So you can't just, one person is not just one thing. That's why I said there's no broad stroke. You can't just say this person is this because we have gray hair or brown hair.
Yeah,
I mean, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. But I mean, from what I have seen and the autistic people I have known they may not have the best normative or behavior, but they also can be the friendliest, the most accepting, open, kind.
Every person, has their own unique, wonderful set of triumphs.
I have seen that as well. Like very different, like kind, open, and just nice to everyone, non-judgmental.
Everyone,
I've noticed it, but what do I
mean?
know?
Everyone can be anything. I mean, there are people who are grumpy who don't have autism. There are people who have autism and happen to be grumpy. I mean, so it's like it's not because of it's like that.
Yeah.
If we're only looking at that lens, we're missing the whole person. It's a part of someone's identity. It's a part of who they are, but it doesn't mean that that's the reason why they are whether they're kind or grumpy or whether
Yeah. But it's interesting that you're so involved in Hollywood now because you're also a performer. I've seen you perform.
Yes.
So, and I almost forgot to ask you about that because, that just comes from my personal experience with you. But I've seen Melissa, she likes to perform in drag for Chabad. You want to explain that a little bit?
Sure. So I graduated from the Goodman School of Drama. I have a BFA, so in acting, which I was doing and trying to, see what was going to come of it. In Chicago, I was working in theater and loved it. And then when I moved out here, I'd gotten a commercial, a voiceover. I was in a film, but nothing was really taking off. And then I started to become observant, and then that puts a little bit of a monkey wrench into Saturdays and things like that. And then when we moved from LA to Orange County, and somebody said, "Oh, this show it's great. It's for women and whatever." And okay. And so I auditioned, and they were like, "Where have you been?" And I was like, "I'm right here." But the other woman, Hillary, who was often my counterpart, she is like a coloratura. Her voice is a high soprano and very beautiful. And I, as you can tell by my speaking voice, I'm more of a mezzo alto voice. And even though she is a half a foot taller than I am, I was always very secure in my manhood. And I was always Jacob or Moses or King David. And I was always her short husband, brother, spouse, partner, whatever. And so
with great facial hair.
It always had some sort of stippled beard of some kind, or actual glued on face. But I
you were the original drag queen.
I was
king.
Yes, I'm it. And I had no problem with it.
Yeah,
I loved it.
That was probably my first awareness of you. Was dressed like an old man with a beard.
That's me.
So singing, because those performances could only be women in the performances, could only be
And
women in the audience, because these were performances to raise money for a Orthodox Jewish community. Yeah.
And it was nice to be able to have finally an outlet to sing and act and dance again.
Yeah.
And it was wonderful.
Yeah. But look at what you did with your career. You went from thinking you were going to be a star in Hollywood, and you ended up being a star in Jewish shows.
Oh, thank you.
and more than just the Jewish shows at Chabad. Now you're with Reitman and all these other Jews in Hollywood making television.
It's
right?
been a gift. Yeah.
Yeah.
Really.
So you're still
blessed.
making. You're creative. You're part of the creative process.
I
still.
think when I stopped needing it and wanting it, that's when it unfolded. I don't desire fame. It's not my interest anymore.
Yeah.
In fact, in February, I was telling you, I'm doing that a TEDx event.
And I plan to be there
yes,
one way or the other.
Yes. And I hope so. And in February 5th. So I'm really excited about that and getting a chance to speak. And I think having the BFA in acting and doing the work on the show gave me a great breadth of perspective. I understood, that they were writing this line for laughs, but it really didn't feel appropriate for my work. And my work came first. And it was really, really nice to feel like there was a marriage.
Yeah. What do you think is the biggest misconception about autism that The Good Doctor helped to address?
I think it was the first show to address, there was Atypical, there were a few other shows, and they were more about interpersonal relationships with family and friends. And this was the first, I think, to my, my knowledge, of venturing out into the workplace, into a work environment.
Like what happens when they grow up.
Yeah. And so having, and we were in different panels where different actors and David Shore would be on this panel. And somebody said, come on, do you think it's realistic that someone with autism is a doctor? And I was like, have you met a lot of doctors?
Oh my God, yes. Yes.
I think there's a percentage.
Yeah.
And I was like, you got to be kidding. Like, of course. And I would have people write to me saying, I'm a doctor. Thank you for representing. But you need to show more about how difficult it is to do all the notes and the paperwork. I was like, we probably won't show that on TV. It's less watchable. Yeah. But it was really, interesting. And so I think it was eye-opening to feel like some people couldn't believe that was possible. And it's absolutely, certainly possible.
Absolutely possible.
Yeah.
What were you thinking, like, the goals were that you wanted to achieve in how Dr. Sean Murphy's character was portrayed? Like, what were some of maybe the changes you made to the script, or things that you criticized them about that maybe they needed to change to portray this character in a way that you thought was more authentic?
Yeah, I mean, I think that often, on a few occasions, sometimes writers would say, we want this to be like a kind of a meltdown moment for him. So we just want him to like hold his ears and rock back and forth. And I was like, so let's try to dig deeper. And they took those notes, right? And so I said, you could maybe do that one time, but that's not like, I don't think that's how he's always reacting to everything that is stressful or overwhelming, or if he feels dysregulated. I don't think that's like, it felt two-dimensional, felt a little bit like a caricature. Yeah. And they respected that and rewrote it differently. And, there was a moment of an explosive moment where he kind of destroys a part of a lab. And they said, what do we do? What is Richard Schiff was his mentor in it. And what does he do? What do we have him say? And I said, I think you have him say nothing, and you just have him sit beside him, because that, when my mom passed, like, there's nothing you can say. I'm sure obviously, there's nothing anyone can say, and you don't need to keep hearing how sorry everyone is, even though everyone is. It's from their heart. Yeah. But it doesn't change anything, and you also need to sit with the pain. And so sometimes having just someone sit beside you with that pain is valuable. Yeah.
Yeah. That's a really good point. You're writing a lot of books. What are they about?
So I have three. The book that hopefully will come out very soon is The Conversation Over Confrontation.
Right.
And it's about that shift in communication style and helping people to to avoid that anxiety response that we are not meaning to create in our partner in communication. My first book is called Amy Amygdala, and it's on Amazon, and it's a children's book. I think it's adorable. It's a little bit dark, a little bit intense, but it's also like Dr. Seuss can be as well. I always say it's like Dr. Seuss meets a neuroscientist. It's about the amygdala and the brain.
That's fun.
Yeah. And that was just, I wrote from my heart, and funny enough, I'd been thinking about it for, I think it was 3 years. I'd really been thinking about it. And then one day I was driving up to LA, I often work in LA with families, and it was a 50-minute drive that day. And I spoke the entire book into my notes, and that was the book. I don't think there were any changes, but maybe like a grammar shift or something.
Wow.
And it just came out. And so, and then I found an illustrator, and it just is this beautiful, fun
bestseller
book. It's bestseller in my heart.
Yeah.
And then I wrote a second book that is called The Sleep Secret, and it's about new parents helping to work with their baby in a healthy and safe way.
Not the baby wise or baby stupid way.
Yeah. It's much more. It's child driven, but it's So
I think I'm with you on that. I never liked the idea of leaving a baby to cry for hours.
Yeah, hours doesn't seem. I think there's a stress hormone that's released, but so it's a balance. I think it's a more balanced approach to helping your baby to sleep through the night.
That sounds interesting.
But it works.
It does? Okay.
Sleep Secret.
And Sleep Secret by Melissa Reiner.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're getting close to the end here.
Okay.
You have a website now, melissareinerspeaks.com.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. What kind of advice are you giving there?
I mean, that I'm speaking more and more. So I do professional development at schools, parent education, and speaking to groups and families and corporations. So it's more along those lines, and I obviously still do my work working with families one-on-one.
Yeah.
And so, yeah.
Okay, so that's something that if you're interested in learning more about what Melissa does, she's a keynote speaker potentially.
Yeah.
She will be featured in a TEDx talk in Orange County. You can find out more about that on my website, where you'll find more information about Melissa. Her website, her books, all of her links will be there on my website. If you search for Melissa Reiner at PeppTalks with Jeanne, you'll find her there. But it's been really nice having you. We're going to have you come back for a panel with a parent that has lived it.
Yeah.
Not one of your patients or clients, but somebody that also has some experience with this firsthand. So that'll be a lot of fun to have that episode. Also,
thank you so much for having me. It's been a real pleasure.
Yeah,
I love getting to meet you.
It's been a lot of fun talking. I've been aware of you for many, many years, and I am so glad that we finally made this happen.
Me too.
Yeah,
thank you.
Really
thank
educational
you so much.
for me as well.
Thank you.
So I want to thank Melissa for coming in today, and I hope to see you around.
Thank you for having me. And if anyone wants to, you can check me out. All of my hashtags and all my links are at Melissa Reiner Speaks. So MELISSAREINER Speaks. Melissa Reiner Speaks. Thank you.
Blaze It Forward is a campaign my family started in 2018 after our son Blaze was murdered. Blaze It Forward provides the inspiration to thousands of people to repair the world with intentional acts of kindness. If you would like to learn more about Blaze and how you can make a difference, check out www.blazebernstein.org or join our Facebook group at #BlazeItForward. You can also check out my website for this podcast at www.pepptalkswithjeanne.com. There you can follow along with my podcasting adventures and learn more about my fascinating guests and their passion projects. I would like to thank all of the volunteers who help make my philanthropic endeavors a reality. Today that includes my producer, Eli Moskowitz, all of the volunteer crew members who join us, and a special thank you to my son, Jay Bernstein, for the original theme song you hear at the beginning and ending of each show. This has been another episode of Pep Talks with Jeanne. Until next time, keep on making this world a better place.